GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show that's as enlightening as finally understanding the offside rule in soccer. I'm not sure I even understand it. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we're joined by William Quigley, co-founder of Tether, the largest stablecoin in the world, and WAX, and involved in many other projects. This guy is an OG in the space, and his brain is incredible. In today's episode, we're going to discuss how William views the current state of the market. He's going to break down his expectations for Q4 and Q1 2025. And you guys aren't going to believe his predictions on where he thinks Bitcoin and Ethereum are going in the next 2 quarters. You're really going to watch out for that. Also, at the end of the episode, William breaks down the most important dates that he has circled in his calendar and what his expectations are for really December, what he needs to see by December in how he allocates his portfolio so that he knows that we're on track or off track. This episode is unbelievable. You're really going to want to tune into it. Also, are you guys headed to permissionless next week? The Milk Road team is, and if you're there, we want to meet you. So comment and let us know if you're there. If you're not going to be there, but you want to go there, we got a 30% off discount code for you guys, Milk30. Check the link in the show notes to sign up today. Also, are you subscribed to our YouTube channel? If you're not, help us out. Please subscribe. We want to get to 10,000 subscribers this month. And if we do, we're going to give away a whole bunch of free stuff. We're going to give you guys our crypto investing masterclass. We're going to give you guys our pro subscription and so much more. So subscribe to YouTube. Just smash that subscribe button now. Also, you know who else is cooking in the crypto space? Our friends over at Gemini. Discover Gemini, the US-based exchange built for new and advanced traders. As a special welcome gift, they are offering new customers $15 in Bitcoin just for trading. At Gemini, security is the top priority. As a licensed full reserve exchange and custodian, your assets are well protected. Plus, they offer cutting-edge security features like passkeys to keep your accounts safe. This exchange is setting the standard for compliance and innovation so you can trade with confidence. Head over to gemini.com/milkroad and start trading today to earn your $15 in Bitcoin. Sign up now and get ready to join the trading fun. William, welcome back to the Milk Road Show.
Good. I'm glad to be back.
It's great to have you. We talked about a month or two ago about the founding story of Tether, and we focused on stablecoins and why stablecoins are such a massive innovation for the world and for the financial system. Today, we're going to talk more about your thoughts on the markets, which is really exciting to get your thoughts because not only did you found Tether, but you're also a very active investor. You also have a fund that you manage. So you have a well-rounded perspective and a lot to bring. What do you think about the current state of the market?
And when you say that, you're referring to crypto?
Yes. I mean, you could go broader if you want. I'm down to go broader.
They're interrelated, but I would say just at a brief high level, we've just entered Q4. This is, October, November is roughly 5-6 months post the halvening, the Bitcoin halvening. This is when the show starts. This is it. This is what we've been waiting for 4 years. Roughly 6 months post halving is when traditionally, like the last halvings, has when the market in crypto has started to move up. And so October, November, we're in October now, is when we should start seeing more sustained rallies in Bitcoin, and Bitcoin will lead, right? So Bitcoin always leads these rallies, and then the altcoins come a few months after. So if the Bitcoin rally actually begins this quarter, then the altcoin rally will start sometime in Q1, maybe the end of Q1, 2025. And it's a little nuanced what I'm saying, so I want to make it clear. I don't know what's going to happen, but what I am saying is if past patterns persist, then that's what we're going to see. Bitcoin start to rally. All tokens, nearly all, with the exception of stable tokens, are correlated to Bitcoin. And so Bitcoin goes first, then the rest. No rally is exactly like the last one, but we've always seen a rally roughly 6 months or so after the Bitcoin halving. The one caveat I would put in there that could affect timing is that we may be entering a recession in Q4 of 2024. We've never had that happen as a Bitcoin rally was about to take off. If that were to happen, and let's say it wasn't a terribly deep recession, it's more like a 91 recession, then you're looking at maybe a 6-month delay, in which case it would be more like mid 2025, where that Bitcoin halving bull market would start to emerge. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to, if there will be a recession, if there is, will it affect Bitcoin? But it does look like, from a greater market perspective, that in the last 3 years or so, what happens in the traditional globally traded financial markets has been a bigger factor on where Bitcoin goes. And we see this when there's a sell-off in the stock markets because of fears of something, inflation or slowdown in the economy. Bitcoin takes a big hit, and all the other, the other altcoins as well, which is in some ways puzzling because crypto is supposed to be uncorrelated to the traditional markets. It's not supposed to be affected by things like interest rates. But the reality is, if people on Wall Street are selling off their, quote, risky part of their portfolio and Bitcoin is in there, then it's going to be affected like any other kind of risk off asset. And I liken Bitcoin in the financial markets maybe to the way they think about IPO or recently IPO'd companies. Those things are not attractive when markets get cold. Big investors don't want to hold those types of companies. They want more defensive companies. So I'd like that to be different. I'd like them to think about Bitcoin different, but right now that's the bucket they put Bitcoin in.
Let's stick with Bitcoin just for a minute. What do you expect to see from Bitcoin when we do have this next bull market, whether it be this quarter or 6 months from now?
Sure. Looking at past patterns, I have a very precise expectation of what I think Bitcoin should do.
I knew you would. You would.
Not as maybe as aggressive as the Plan B, right? I'm sure you follow what he reports, the eternal optimist. But so I'm going to give you rough numbers. Okay. The first halving, Bitcoin went up about 50x from where it began at the beginning, right at the halving, to its peak in that cycle. The next halving, it went up about 20x, from about 1,000 to 20,000. That would have been, the 2017 rally. The next halving, it went up about 10x. It was about 6,500 and it went to like 70,000, right? And that was the 2020 rally. 50, 20, 10, if you kind of follow that, you might think five, right? Half again. So Bitcoin was roughly 60,000, 65 or whatever. Let's just say 60,000. So at the halving, 5 times that would be 300,000. So it would be reasonable if you just applied prior movement and said that same pattern is going to apply this time. It would be reasonable to say Bitcoin in the peak of this rally, it should hit roughly 300,000. Now, maybe it's 250, maybe it's 350. And then what about everything else, right? So Bitcoin leads, but Bitcoin also, $1.2 trillion market cap. It's not going up 20x, right? So that's what we look to other tokens to do. The curious one for me is Ethereum, because it's number 2 in market cap. It's I didn't look today, but what, 300 billion or so, something like that, market cap. Ethereum has done multiples of whatever Bitcoin has done, right? Mm-hmm. So the last rally, depending on what day you peg, but it was a couple of $100. It went up to almost $5,000. I think it was 4,800. Mm-hmm. So you were getting like whatever 25x. Mm-hmm. So versus the 10x for Bitcoin. But let's just say Ethereum not only it needs to do mm-hmm. double whatever Bitcoin does. And when I say that, here's what I mean. Ethereum is a riskier asset. And brand isn't as well known, even though a lot of people in crypto think, how could you not know Ethereum? But compared to Bitcoin, it's much less well known. Mm-hmm. And it's much more volatile. Well, if something is a lot more volatile, then you need to be paid more to hold it, mm-hmm. which means you need more upside. The only reason people buy recent IPO shares is because they think that has a lot more upside than, Microsoft. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't, then you're accepting far greater risk in terms of price volatility for not enough upside. So this is why I say Ethereum really needs to outperform. So Ethereum would need to do, let's say double. So instead of 5x, 10x, and Ethereum was like, I think it was like $2,000 or so, 2,200 at the halvening in April. Mm-hmm. So that would be 20,000. Mm-hmm. And that seems like, holy shit, that can't be. But I remember when it was 30 cents. I remember when it was 15 cents. I remember when it was $20. And so it could, but in the first market, Ethereum went out in mid-July 2015, mm-hmm. and then it rose up as part of the 2017 bull market. It went from, call it $20 to several $1,000s. Mm-hmm. And so I actually was like 1,400, I think it peaked, but that's a big run. Mm-hmm. And these things are always hard to imagine before they happen. Mm-hmm. Lots of people couldn't imagine a semiconductor company with kind of one main product, NVIDIA, being worth 3 trillion. So mm-hmm. it can happen. But I would be a little worried if, let's say, midway through the rally, mm-hmm. sometime in 2025, Ethereum hasn't performed some substantial amount more in mm-hmm. terms of multiple rise than Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. Because if it doesn't, you have to rethink whether or not you want to hold on to that for the mm-hmm. long term. Mm-hmm. And Ethereum is a very loved token by many OGs, mm-hmm. and it's still very important to the ecosystem, particularly in DeFi. Mm-hmm. DeFi, of course, is one of the reasons why it exploded in 2020 and 2021. Yeah. What is the catalyst this time? Mm-hmm. I'm not as sure. Like a lot of people talk about meme coins being maybe the equivalent of the DeFi boost.
Yeah, we sort of had DeFi, and then we had NFTs and meme coins,
all that.
Yeah.
But that's transitioned to some other chains.
That's the
right?
thing. They all moved to Solana.
Yeah. So Ethereum it's shocking to me, but because the reason I launched WAX in 2017 was because it was obvious that Ethereum could not scale, mm-hmm. and it wouldn't be able to scale affordably for people who were using it. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until like 2021 where the mainstream crypto people were like, "Oh, Ethereum has a scale problem." Mm-hmm. There's not a lot of deep thinking in a lot of crypto corners about what can and can't happen. Solana has many issues itself that make it difficult to scale. And it's doing much better, certainly in the affordability side of it, right? Even your rank and file, like barely familiar with crypto people during the NFT bubble, realized that, oh, it costs a lot when that network is busy on Ethereum to transfer an NFT. There should be something better, cheaper, faster. And so, but that anytime you are looking at whether a company or a traded asset's going to go up, whether it's a commodity like copper or a company like Microsoft or Google or Nvidia, you have to say, okay, what new narrative is going to propel it higher now? And this I have found over many decades of investing, it's not intuitive, right? And it's good to kind of be explicit about things, because a lot of people who are traders think a certain way, and they're correct to think it, but the regular market doesn't realize it. Like the fact that nobody cares how much money your company has made in the past. If you are going to make no more money in the future, your company is worth zero. That's not necessarily intuitive. You don't get good credit for being a good performer in the past. And so we need new narratives. The Bitcoin narrative is pretty much the old narrative, and that probably still serves it, because it's thought of as the crypto that everybody's going to adopt someday. And mistakenly, many people think it's going to be adopted as a payment mechanism.
It's going to be, which it's not.
Which it's not. Be. Yeah. That'll be stable coins.
Stablecoins.
The narrative in 2024 for Bitcoin, which I find amusing, is it's layer 2, right? And look at all the stuff you can do. I'm always amused by Bitcoin maxis, because they tout things that were developed like 5 years before or 10 years earlier, right? Like when we had ordinals, wow, you can do an NFT on Bitcoin. So what? Like, why would you even want to? But Bitcoin does get sort of most of the spotlight. And you can see this in, if we want to think of ETFs as a proxy for popularity, well, Bitcoin ETFs I haven't looked today, but let's say roughly they have 75 billion in tradable assets, right? Roughly. And doing like, it was $1 billion, but right now it's probably 600-700 million in daily volume, right? If you were to say, okay, how should Ethereum do? What you would probably start with was, well, it's 1/4 the size. So instead of, we'll say 80 billion, instead of being an 80 billion in market cap, it's 20 billion. And instead of 600 million in volume, it's going to be 25%, 150 million in daily volume. That's not the case, though.
No.
Ethereum is at a 6 billion, Ethereum ETF, 6 billion, versus 75 billion in assets. And the daily volume's 50 million.
Yeah,
which smaller. Is kind of equivalent to, if you throw in future market trading, what a typical top 10 traded token would do in a kind of slow market. So that says to me that Ethereum is and this would go for all alts after that being even less well known. There's not much, the general public markets don't know a lot about anything other than crypto, or other than Bitcoin. So we need, the good news is that means that they're open to a new narrative, because maybe they don't know about these other chains, but the impact of that would be diffused over a lot of other tokens as well. So
are you concerned about the Ethereum ETF? And obviously, one of the big reasons the Ethereum ETF has struggled is because of the grayscale ETH trust and the outflows that have happened since the ETF launched. I'm looking right now about 3 billion in outflows as a result of that, which has essentially made the ETH ETF negative on the net because of all those outflows. So the ETH ETF has really underperformed from what a lot of us expected. But at the same time, it launched at a time in the market when nobody was looking to go risk on. Are you concerned?
I wouldn't say I'm concerned in like oh wow, dump Ethereum.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say the story as to why you would want to hold Ethereum versus Bitcoin, or hold crypto and maybe hold some Bitcoin and some Ethereum versus everything in the S&P. That story is not a well understood. It's not well expressed.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, remember, in the public markets, most people rely on two things. They rely on the day-to-day news, which is why every average Joe now has bought, on a Robinhood has bought NVIDIA. I think a terrible idea, but whatever, because they heard about it and they don't understand this critical thing about public investing, which is once the narrative is out, the opportunity has passed. What you want to do is get into something where it's been neglected, but you see a change in fortunes. That's an amazing thing. Or something that's not been neglected, it's just been attacked and assaulted as a loser, as a dead asset, but you see a heartbeat, right? And you're like, well, wait a minute, maybe this is coming back. Those are cases where you do more than 10x, right? But investing in something because it's popular, I only know this from my own experience in life, has generally doesn't turn out very well.
Yeah, well, and that's exactly what is the position for Ethereum right now. They've been slammed. They have lost the narrative. They don't have a clear tagline like Bitcoin has digital gold, Solana has decentralized NASDAQ. Ethereum's never really had that tagline to make it easy to understand, but the fundamentals haven't changed. The fundamentals are stronger than ever. So, and they are scaling. So I think it is in a position where you would say, hey, everything still looks the same. Nothing has changed about the fundamentals, but they just haven't had the price action that Bitcoin and Solana have had in this cycle so far. If we go further to other L1s, what are your thoughts on Solana or on the other narrative that we've actually been talking a bunch about on the show, which is the next L1? We had Ethereum 2 cycles ago. We had Solana last cycle. What's going to be the L1 in this cycle? We've talked about Sui. We've talked about Say. We've talked about Aptos. Would you be curious to get your thoughts on Solana and or your thoughts on which will be the next L1 if you're watching that at all?
Yeah, I'll answer that a little indirectly, but first directly on Solana, it hit a low of about $10, $10.
Yeah, 9, I think.
Right? What, 9 you said?
I think 9, yeah.
9, yeah. And then went up to almost 200. I don't know what it is right now, 160, something like that, 150.
I think even 140, yeah, in that range.
Yeah. So if you take the way I look at things, which is if you're holding Bitcoin, it's going to go up 5x, assuming past patterns and all that, whatever. Then Ethereum needs to go up 10. Well, then a Solana would need to go up by more than 10 because it's more risky, right? But we've already, depending on when you take that snapshot, Solana's already had a very nice increase, right? And maybe is 25, 30% of the value of Ethereum. So it's it's already gone up a lot. So I would say maybe you get is it possible to get a 10x out of Solana? Possibly. But if you were looking for those very, very typical crypto bull market run type of returns, which is more than that, 20x, 30x, 50x, then I don't see how that would be possible with Solana. I mean, they've already gotten the full value for this next big phase of meme coins. So what would be equivalent to that would propel it again higher, right? Well, it would need to be as big or bigger than the meme coin effect, which is pretty strong. So the way I would sort of indirectly answer what's the next hot token without sounding like a fraudulent Reddit poster, right? So I have no idea is the simple answer. However, I can tell you that it will have certain characteristics. If you look at what propelled Ethereum, it was ultimately, oh, this is a chain that we can launch other ICOs off of, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at Solana, well, this is a chain we can launch things like meme coins off of. Mm-hmm. And that's because people then need to own that token in order to do that work on the chain. So what is a new capability that people are going to want to do, and what chain is really well suited for that particular function, right? So let's just take a random real world assets, right? Mm-hmm. Let's just say that there's some things people want to do with the tokenization of real world assets that isn't easy to do on, say, Solana or Ethereum. And there could be lots of things we could speculate about that. But let's just say that. But a new token or an existing chain has anticipated this, and that chain allows you to do that thing, right? Turn it into a future or something, whatever it is. That the ability to propel a token high when it's a modestly priced token, and then there's a massive movement towards doing something. NFTs, for instance, right? All the NFT focused chains went up 30, 40, 50, 100x during the last boom. That's going to be how you identify the token that's going to really take off. And if you had been thinking about memes and then seeing that people were migrating over to Solana because it was easier, cheaper, faster, you would have ridden that token up like 10x in the last year and a half. So you unfortunately, you do have to do some thinking about it. I will say this though, I don't know, and I've talked a lot about this, I don't know what the next big thing is going to be in crypto. I hope it's real world assets, the tokenization of real world assets, but I could go through it and I won't bore you now, but since basically 2012, every single year, there has been a very large new capability that came into the crypto market that year that caused, even during down or kind of flat markets, caused sort of a micro bubble in some area of crypto. That's what kept it interesting. That stopped in 2021. So 2022, 23, and now we're mostly through 24. We've not seen that. I thought maybe we could argue the tokenization of tokenized, of staked assets, like what Eigenlayer did, restaking a staked asset. That, I mean, that plays to what crypto people like, something for nothing, right? Even though there are risks, but most people discount those. But I don't think that's as big as, let's say, DeFi or ICOs or exchange issued tokens or NFTs, intelligent layers on blockchains. It's more a category of DeFi than it is its own thing. And if you go back to 2020, by this time, DeFi and NFTs had gone from emergent to really going rapid in terms of adoption by the latter end of 2020, which is why 2021, it just exploded. If this is going to happen, it's happening in the next 90 days, right? So this is why this is really exciting time. Q4 2024 was always going to be the time when either the next bull run happened or we are moving off of old patterns. And if we're moving off of the old patterns, that's a very strange place to be. It means we really have no insight into what's coming down the pike.
Right. But so far, you have no reason to think we are moving off the old patterns. Right now, everything
No.
seems to be going to
In fact,
plan.
everything that's happened has been like right in line. There was post Bitcoin halving, Bitcoin kind of just went flat. We need to have 2 capitulations in August, September, because that's traditionally what's happened. And we had arguably 2.5, right? So I like what I'm seeing. The only thing that's has not existed, which I think is big, that exists this time around is the possibility of a mildish recession in the United States in Q4, maybe early Q1 2025. So that's different. Whether that causes the stock market to pull back, it hasn't really yet. If you look at the Shiller PE for the S&P 500, it's at 35. The actual PE is like 27 or so, but the Shiller PE, which is more of an average PE over 10 years, it's at 35. To me, the market is pretty healthy. There's a lot of value, $50 trillion in the U.S. public markets, whatever, more actually. I think that's just the S&P, 50 trillion. That's a lot of wealth that's in traded assets. So it doesn't appear people are running away. But for your audience, what they really need to appreciate, though, is I believe whichever way the public markets go, at least in the near term, crypto follows. So, and it generally has a magnified effect.
Yeah.
So if the markets are off 2%, crypto's off 5%.
Yep.
And that while I think it's illogical, if you think about what crypto is supposed to do and what it's supposed to protect against, it is a reality that now we have to incorporate in how we think about cryptocurrencies.
Yeah. It's great to hear you say that you think we're still on track, because I think there's everybody who listens to the show every day, we all have been talking about, hey, it's coming. And then October came and we were like, it's Uptober. And unfortunately, we had a little bit of conflict in the Middle East and this week, and the market's nuked a little bit and everybody's scared again. And is October still going to happen? But everything is still on track. Before I ask you my final question here, William, I just want to say to everybody, 2 shows that you should go back and listen to. On the RWA side, go check out our show about Mantra, which is a RWA L1 in Asia that is really set up for that, really take advantage of that narrative. They're up 6,700% this year already. They've just done incredibly well. And the other is our episode on BitTensor and the AI narrative, and why we think they're well positioned, but also how we view investing in AI and crypto. Very interesting episode. Go check that out. William, I want to ask you before we wrap here. I know you have some dates circled in your calendar for the rest of this year. What are the dates that you have circled in your calendar that you are going to be watching closely as tipping points that you want to see things happen by? And if they don't happen by that date, you might be a little bit concerned.
Well, first, the markets are move right now based on interest rate policy. So November 7th, the next Fed meeting, we had a 50 basis point rate cut, obviously, September 18th. And right now, if you just look at CME, the futures, it's 96% assuming the market's current pricing is assuming a 96% likelihood of another 50 basis point cut. Personally, I think that's we didn't need a cut, but whatever. Markets tend to like cuts. However, and this is again one of those counterintuitive things, historically, when rate cuts have begun, markets have gone down. And what's really going on there is markets were going down and the Fed started to cut. So it's not like the cut caused the market to go down, but it's a sign that the markets are probably getting weak because the overall economy is getting weak. Who knows how long this port strike in the US, East Coast is going to go on, but that could have an effect. But so I'm looking at the rate. If we don't get a rate cut, then the market will sell off. And therefore, in early November, we would have a sell-off in crypto. And I assume we'll get a rate cut of 50 basis points because that's what the market's factoring in, but we'll see. Then after that, for me, it is, call it early December. If by early December, Bitcoin is not at, call it $90,000 to $100,000, I think that's a bad sign. If we finish December and it hasn't passed, call it $100,000, then that's a red flag. So we had the sell-offs in August, September, which was in keeping with historical patterns. So I'm like, okay, we're on trend. And now we're in Q4. I would like to see Bitcoin go up, at least 50% from its halving price, so 60 to 90 plus. If it doesn't, let's say we're bouncing around 60 to 70,000 by the end of December. It's a red flag. It's not game over. But then Q1 2025 becomes extremely important. If we finish Q1 2025 and there has been no substantial increase in the price of Bitcoin, then here's what I would say to everybody. It's not the end of the world, but here's what it does mean. It means we've entered a new era, and what we all relied on which was these 4-year cycles, which were very good guides of how things were going to work, have gone away. And what new pattern emerges, we'll have to literally sit through the show to see. I suspect on the positive side of that, what that means is any people who are just coming into the market at that point, you are not disadvantaged by people who have all this prior accumulated knowledge of what the next page is going to tell you, because nobody knows. So from that perspective, it could be an opportune time to enter the market because a new pattern's emerging and maybe you'll figure out what that is. On the other hand, it's disconcerting to the OGs, certainly to Wall Street that really likes understanding patterns. And you could see some amount of crypto buyers leave the market and say, well, now it's more random, right? What's going to happen? And no investor likes random, right? There's often a confusion with crypto. People call it gambling, and then they say random too, but they're very different things. The odds in gambling are actually posted. With certainty what the odds are, right? Roll by roll, you may not know what's going to happen, but over time, it's mathematically predictable. A new era for crypto will be exciting, but also a lot more jarring. And so the great news is within 90 days, we're going to have red flag 1 or green flag, right? Yeah. And then 90 days after that, we will know what to conclude. So the show's begun, and everybody, if you have any interest in this area, if you're allocating portion of portfolio to this area, This is when you have to be following this stuff every single day. Okay. Now, you could have been asleep for the last 2.5 years, but going forward, now this is it, because virtually all the money that most great investors have made was made in short periods of time. There's long, dry spells punctuated by incredible opportunities. It is not like, a certain amount every day. That's not how the markets work. You catch the market at the right time, you make a lot, and then and in venture capital, which I did for many decades, when it's dry, it's bone dry. There's no return. So when the sun is shining, when the markets are in a volatile time, that's when you have to be engaged, and that's now.
And now's the time, and that's why you got to listen to the Milk Road Show every day. Okay, so William, we're gonna get you back on, I think, in December, and then we'll get you back on 90 days after that. And we'll have a chat.
Either I will be very excited or I will be very concerned. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. And we'll make sure that either way, we'll be able to have a clear picture of where we're at. William, thank you so much for your time and for joining us again today. If you guys don't follow William on Twitter, make sure you do. We'll throw his Twitter in the show notes. You guys are going to want to follow him. He's got such great insights and he's always keeping us up to date, and we'll make sure tune in, because we'll have you back on in December and we'll chat about red flags or green flags at that point.
That sounds good.
Awesome. Thanks for listening in, everybody. Have a wicked awesome day. As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your #1 resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.